Good morning, Stokastic baseball fans. How you guys doing out there? Everybody enjoying the playoffs? It's been a good one. It's been, well, not for my New York Yankees so much, but it's been some fun nail-biter type playoff games. They've been pretty solid. I think some Phillies fans, my buddy Charlie in particular, learned his lesson about angering the baseball gods early the other day. He sent a group text to our text message chain the other day saying, hey, handing a 4-0 lead off to Aaron Nola. It's in the bag. And then two back-to-back home runs came immediately after that. So you don't mess with the baseball gods, gang. And we're here to take a quick look at today's baseball slate for DFS. You don't want to mess with the baseball gods for DFS either. They can be pretty cruel, pretty fickle. But we're going to go through all the good picks here. We're brought to you by Stokastic internally once again by the promo code Hardwood. It's Stokastic Plus Platinum, $10 for 10 days of access to the Platinum plan. Can't really beat that. So with that, let's dive into the MLB strategy show for December 21st. Forgot to mention the name of the show or my name. My name's Terry McBride. If I forgot to say that at the top, I'm no good at these intros. I'm just kind of like diving into all this stuff, Yang. And I just like talking to all of you, really is what it is. But let's do this. Get my ugly mug out of the way. Whoop, wrong one. There we go. We don't need to see me that big and the stats that small. So let's take a quick look here. We've got the Padres and the Phillies. Single game slate today. Again, Yanks and the Astros have the day off, thankfully. Give my Yankees a chance to collect themselves before game 3 in the Bronx. But we've got game 3 down in Philadelphia. These teams come back East Coast. Joe Musgrove going for the Padres. Ranger Suarez going for the Phillies. Good pitching matchup. Musgrove, the better of these two pitchers. I think that's pretty universally agreed upon. But Ranger Suarez has been certainly very good for the last 2 seasons. Over 155 and a third this season. Ranger Suarez had a 3.82 xFIP, a 2.27% home run rate. He's very good at limiting premium contact, only a 34.7% hard hit rate. Last year it was a 31.1, and he had only a 0.96% home run rate. He was dominant last year in terms of over 106 innings in terms of keeping the ball in the yard. So he's very good at that. It was a little bit, funkier this year. Home runs can be a little bit wonky as well statistically. They just kind of come and go a little bit. So that's why stats like xFIP kind of eliminate home runs from the calculus. So we take that with a grain of salt, the additional few home runs. But overall, the hard hit rate is fairly consistent. The average launch angle, 5.1 degrees. Everything is down 4.4 last year, 2.6% barrel rate, 6.8% barrel. So the launch angle increase, the hard hit increase all contributes to that barrel rate. But Suarez, very, very good. What we lost with Suarez this year, though, was his strikeouts. 19.5% strikeout rate for Ranger Suarez this year. Last year was 25.6%. That's a lethal combo. That's better than what we were talking about yesterday with Framber Valdez and his increase up to like a 23.5% strikeout rate with his just absurd ability to induce ground balls. A little bit different with Suarez, but when he was pitching at that 25.6% rate, limiting home runs like he was last year, he was deadly. I mean, he could be very, very good in spots. Potentially better real life than DFS in times, and certainly this year with only the 19.5% strikeout rate, a little bit wonky, a little bit tough with the walks, 8.8%, a 1.33 whip. He can be a little aggressive about getting himself in trouble, putting guys on base. But when you're reducing ground ball after ground ball, typically you're going to get out of those situations. Worst case, you end up giving up 1 run at a time, kind of like what we saw with the Yanks when they got to Framber for, I think it was 2 runs later yesterday, where he had put a couple guys on and then just a couple little dink and dunk kind of ground balls. He juggled one at the mound, another one just got past the shortstop. So stuff like that is what you see. You don't really see the big home run balls against this guy outside of, the occasional ones, obviously. And the Padres have a few guys that could certainly hit one out against him, but he plays more into, the Padres station to station kind of baseball, using their on base ability and some of that. It'll be an interesting matchup between the two, his pitching ability and how they play the game. On the other side, Joe Musgrove, another excellent season out of Musgrove. He's a known commodity. 24.9% strikeout rate, a 3.47 xFIP for the season, only walk 5.7%. Swinging strike rate sitting at 11% with a solid CSW over 30%. These are the things we like to see from starting pitchers. I've gone to Musgrove again and again. I think he typically comes up a little bit underpriced on regular slates throughout the season, and he doesn't necessarily get all the love that maybe he should. A lot of people still have lingering thoughts about the sticky stuff and all of those conversations, but he has proven himself to be a very good pitcher, sticky stuff or no. or, they can't find it when they go out and search him and check behind his ears and everything they've been doing to him. But yeah, he is totally reliable. Somebody you can go to here. 60-ish% owned across both the captain and the util spots on DK where we're using pitchers. 42% for Ranger Suarez. It's exactly like it was yesterday, right? The pitchers are going to be the highest projected guys. They are the most likely guys to put up big scores, and therefore they're the most likely to be rostered in the captain spots. But as we can see, from time to time, you get one of those games where these guys don't have their best stuff. A few hits, a home run, a lack of strikeout upside, and now they're kind of competing with some of those hitter scores. So in that captain spot, the easiest way to get different with the DraftKings lineup is to play a hitter in the DK line, in the captain spot. We'll talk about the various hitters. We'll take a look at some lineup builds. I've got the showdown tool all loaded up again. So we'll get into that. Yesterday I read the hardwood promo here between the batters, and then we did like another 20 minutes or whatever look at the lineups. So I'm gonna go through some batters, and then we'll do the promo read, and then we'll go and take a look at some lineups. My nose is running again. Excuse me 1 second. It's fun to watch the host do that on video, isn't it? God, I watched myself back yesterday and I was like, I can't believe you're doing that, and here I am doing it again today. But we move on. Padres, Ha-Seong Kim in the leadoff spot. Little question mark in the Padres lineup. It might be Josh Bell. It might be Will Myers. Josh Bell's been sitting against lefties the last couple times out. That said, that bat, I feel like they're going to want it in there. We've got the projected lineup. The one at Stokastic has Josh Bell in. The one that I'm using has Will Myers in that spot. Either way, it would be one or the other probably hitting in the 6th spot here. I prefer Josh Bell on that side of it. I don't think he's really got a lefty problem, so I think they could drop him in there. But leadoff, Ha-Seong Kim, somewhat under-owned, fairly affordable, a talented guy in terms of just racking up some counting stats, 11 home runs, 12 stolen bases, and getting involved. So if he's leading off, you can correlate him with Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Brandon Drury, the obvious names on this board. Drury had a very nice year. He's a guy that was under-discussed a lot throughout the season. We hit on him pretty hard during the course of the regular season on a few different strategy shows where we talked about him. He went out, hit 2 home runs, came up with 28 home runs over the course of the season between the Reds and the Pods, a 230 ISO creator, runs 23% better than average. He's only going 16.5% owned if he's in the lineup today. That's across both the captain spot and the util spot. That seems a little light. And this is the captain salary, obviously, but relatively fair salary for a guy who put up the numbers that he did this season. So I can get in the Brandon Drury business at that ownership level. Jake Cronenworth, Jerickson Profar, these are guys I've talked about throughout the season that you guys have been watching. They're league average-ish type players, but they're effective. They create runs and they get involved in this offense. So they're putting the ball in play, they're getting on base, and they're correlating with the big bats in this offense. So you can see most of these guys above average in terms of WRC plus. Only Trent Grisham and Austin Nola, the catcher, and one of the outfielders in the bottom of the lineup here, well below average in terms of WRC plus. But it is a good lineup that can create runs. They just don't have the big thumpers, as we've talked about. 2 guys with 28, 27 home runs, and then Manny at 32 home runs. But I mean, Juan Soto, elite bat. Manny Machado, elite bat. Brandon Drury made some nice changes this year and turned himself into a serviceable home run hitter. There are some good options in this lineup. So keep an eye on the ownership. Keep an eye on where that goes. We'll take a look at how they can kind of come together to form a lineup in a little bit. But I do think they're certainly viable. And you're getting them against Ranger Suarez, who does have that ability to keep the ball down, keep it in the yard. It feels like it might be a pitching duel kind of a game, a 2-to-1 type of a game where we're not getting a ton of offense. So that'll probably lead us back into the pitchers, really, if we're being honest about where the scoring is likely to come from. But in the event that we get one of those games that goes off, you do want to have a bunch of lineups that are just kind of loaded up with hitting. And I think I prefer the Padres side. Just thinking about the 2 pitching matchups, I'd rather tackle Ranger Suarez than Joe Musgrove. A lot more contact available, if nothing else, with Suarez at the 19.5% strikeout rate, and he's going to put more guys on base with his advanced whip, his advanced walk rate. So I think the Padres offense is probably the better side of the 2, but I prefer the Phillies offense, if you get me. Like in a vacuum matchup excluded, I think the Phillies offense is much better. I really like how this lineup comes together in terms of the lefty righty. They've got a ton of power in the lineup, some star caliber players. So, I mean, no strangers here. We've got a couple lineup questions in this one as well. The projected that I'm using has Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh, 2 lefties in the lineup going up against Joe Musgrove. I think the site is using Matt Vierling and Edmundo Sosa in those 2 spots. Could go either way. I feel like they'll lean toward the lefties, but we'll see what happens. Certainly Matt Vierling has earned a little bit of a look in that spot. He's only 4,002 on the DK slate, so he's interesting. He's drawing our highest ownership projection as things currently stand. We'll see him in a minute when we flip over to the showdown tool, but I'm using the lineups that I've got in. So obvious names up top with the Phillies, right? Kyle Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto. Those 4 hitters, string them together any way that you possibly can. Work those guys into your various lineups. There's a lot of upside in those guys. We can see Kyle Schwarber, the only guy in the game with an over 10 in the old home run model here, 10 being the magic number. So Kyle Schwarber, excuse me, is obviously a decent candidate there. Rhys Hoskins coming in number 2, and then Bryce Harper behind them. Nobody really on the pod side showing through for home run upside because of just generally, again, their lack of power and the ability of Ranger Suarez to kind of keep the ball in the yard. This is a 2+ year model actually at this point. So it does factor in some of his talents from last year and just the overall who he is as a pitcher. So I do think that there could be a little bit more home run upside on the Phillies side of things. But again, I do think Musgrove, the better pitcher, the guy I'd rather attack less. So looking down the lineup, you get to Nick Castellanos, Alec Bohm. We'll see who's in the bottom of the lineup. If it is Stott, I like the spot for Bryson Stott here. I almost said I like the spot for Stott. God, that would have been bad. I like the spot for Bryson Stott, Gene Segura, Brandon Marsh. All 3 of those hitters, we talked about them 2 games ago. They've been involved all season long. Double-digit home runs, double-digit steals out of all 3 of those guys at the bottom of the lineup here. Only Gene Segura is above average for WRC plus out of those guys. But when we're getting these specific counting stats and we're hunting in a short game, in a short scenario with limited choices, these guys are going to be going off at lower ownership. I just want to grab that potential of maybe grabbing a counting stat or 2 and throwing it into the mix in a util spot in what I think will be a pretty low-scoring game. So all of those guys going to be very interesting here again today. And it's a mix and match, try and come up with unique combinations, showdown kind of an affair, gang. So that's really what we're looking for here. We'll take a quick look at the hardwood promo. Like I said at the top of the show, if you guys want access to the platinum plan for $10 for your first 10 days, promo code hardwood, that's the way to go. It's HARDWOOD, all one word, all capital letters. That gets you access to every single tool and every single data point that we have at the site for every single sport that we cover. And we cover everything. If there's a DFS contest for it on one of the major sites, you can be damn sure that we've got content for it over at Stokastic. So check it out. Promo code hardwood, HARDWOOD, gets you access to the platinum plan, $10 for your first 10 days if you're a new user. No fantasy cruncher included in that, but it's got everything: NBA, NFL, MLB, MMA, golf, tennis, every single thing that you can think of. And it includes all the tools, the boom bust tool, the top stacks tools, the ownership projections, the standard points projections, every single thing you could want. Really, guys, you're wasting your time listening to me. If you've been sitting here just listening to me talk about it, you should have already clicked over to Stokastic and used promo code hardwood, HARDWOOD, all caps, all one word, $10, 10 days of platinum. Let's jump back to the model here. And I know that was showing on the screen the whole time. I didn't have a slide or anything for that. So you guys were seeing the model the whole time, but I was looking at my other screen because I need these things. I need these prompts. I need these cues. I don't know. Let's look. Same thing I built yesterday with the single game model. You can see some of these guys in my projected lineups aren't pulling ownership projections because we don't have them projected for ownership at the site right now. I added Veerling, Edmundo Sosa, and Josh Bell down here. You can see they are pulling ownership projections because they are projected for ownership right now. Matt Veerling, obviously, and Edmundo Sosa, 4,000 and 4,200 base salaries on DK. So they are super popular util pieces if they're in the lineup. We'll see what happens there. Stott and Brandon Marsh, both more expensive, better players. So let's take a look. We'll do a DK one first. I'll build the first one out with a pitcher in it so we can look at what just that ownership does. And we're getting Ranger Suarez, 12.8% owned in the captain role. That's not egregiously bad compared to where we were seeing some of the pitching in the captain role yesterday. I don't hate Suarez. I don't think it's crazy to expect that he could have a decent performance in that pitching spot. If you saw my projections for their FanDuel projections, but if you saw them, I have these guys like within a point of one another on the other page there. So I think that's a reasonable spot to go for half the ownership of his counterpart, Joe Musgrove. And then we are booking the pitching projection into that multiplier spot. So let's go with that. We'll see what happens. Leaves us with 68.8 to spend, remaining 34.4 across the util spots here. So if we're going with Ranger Suarez, we talked about his Phillies. We talked about liking some of their offensive upside for power. I might just grab Kyle Schwarber and grab first one out of the gate. Already hit the wrong button. Might grab Kyle Schwarber. Some of that home run upside we talked about, biggest home run upside on the board at 11.26. So we'll see him. We could do the reverse wraparound with Brandon Marsh and grab a little bit of salary savings and grab some of those counting stats that we were talking about. And then you don't get it on the first plate appearance, obviously, but if they go through the lineup once, Brandon Marsh gets on, he's hitting in front of Kyle Schwarber. Maybe get a little bit of correlation there. That leaves us 64-6. We don't want to load up too much on Padres hitters, but we definitely need at least one of them. Let's grab our guy, Brandon Drury. We got the money to spend, I think, here. 53 left on the board. That gives us actually probably not unless we have these guys in the lineup. So if we were to make that decision, that would leave us 5,300 average salary left. So then we would need the value-based guys. We could go with a like a Trent Grisham and then one of the value guys. So we would need them. So let's make a different decision than Brandon Drury. Let's go that's on Kim. Maybe that'll. Does that give us enough money? Probably not. We'll probably have to go with Will Myers here. 9. We could go. We go Ha-Seong Kim, Trent Grisham at 58, and then we could go back. No, it doesn't look like good enough there. All right. Might end up not loving this lineup, but we'll see. Let's just use Grisham because he'll probably be in the lineup. All right, so we popped Trent Grisham in there just to grab a Padre. That leaves us 6,800 apiece. So that could give us Alec Boehm here. We could go Boehm and Stott and do a loaded Phillies. Right, Phillies onslaught here. It's not a bad idea. I should actually just use the mouse here to make this faster. All right, so we can Phillies onslaught it. And, damn it. Let's pretend like Bryson Stott is going to be owned, let's call it 22%. And Brandon Marsh is going to be owned the same 22%. So those guys are owned 22%. I had to fudge it a little bit here. I forgot we didn't have the projections for those specific guys. So if this ownership projection I just made up is correct, and if these guys are in the lineup, we're talking about a 1 in 16,000-ish lineup here with that. It's not so bad. That's playable. Probably be duped a few times in the largest of tournaments, but you can't worry too much about once you get out beyond like 1 in 10,000. Then you maybe start compromising some of the quality in the lineups. Let's take a look at a Padres focused one, and we'll use one of the hitters in the captain role. Let's take Juan Soto, top of the board here, pop him in the captain spot there. We'll grab a little Ha-Seong Kim for some correlation. Like that. We'll leave Manny off the table here because 7150. I don't want to. Well, let's see what happens. You know what? We'll skip Manny. We'll go with Brandon Drury. That leaves us 66. We could go. I like Boehm. Actually, you know what? Rhys Hoskins. 7 each. Pops us back toward that same problem, though. We could go Brandon Marsh. 57 each. We could go Grisham, and then we could go like Marsh. We don't have any pitching in this lineup, so we don't have to worry about the hitters versus pitchers aspect of it. Leaves 200 on the table. Again, we've got Marsh not projected. Call it 22. We're calling that 22. This is a 1 in 61,000 lineup because we're using Juan Soto at 4% owned in the captain spot. That helps with a lot of this other ownership. And then we're using two relatively lightly owned guys in Ha-Seong Kim and Brandon Drury, who both have correlation with Juan Soto in the captain spot. These guys are probably a little lighter than they should be in the util role here. So I think that offsets a little bit of the ownership. We don't worry about the 28% on Trent Grisham. We get Rhys Hoskins and Brandon Marsh here. So potentially, again, some of that wraparound correlation with Marsh to Hoskins. We saw a better home run opportunity for Kyle Schwarber. If you can figure out a way to get him into this lineup, that'd be great. JT Realmuto. Hoskins was at a nice $8,400 price. If you drop down to Nick Castellanos and spend the $7,400, you'll have a little bit more money to play with. You could go like Castellanos and Bryson Stott probably there. So a lot of different options, a lot of different ways you can take a lineup build, but focus on the ownership product, and just figuring out the uniqueness. I think that is the most important thing, because you can see if you just go super duper chalky, let's say like Joe Musgrove captain, which is the most obvious choice for everybody. And then we want to take like Juan Soto util, trying to keep it in line with something that can also be affordable. Util on Rhys Hoskins. And let's say we got Vierling in the lineup, right? He's 50% owned because he's 4,000. Let's say somebody did that. They wanted to go, and we'll put Josh Bell. Let's say Josh Bell's out there. He's 52. 54. It's thrilling broadcasting. Let's not say Josh Bell.
So we'll go, say it's Will Myers. He's 8, so we go Myers and Grisham. And again, I'm using these guys. Vierling was, why did he not pop up? 50.9. Oh, I don't have the lookup set to see that down there. My bad. And Will Myers, we're not projecting for ownership. Let's call him 22. So see, and again, it's a little fudged on the Will Myers being 22. He could be higher. He could be a little bit lower. I don't expect he'd be that much lower than that, though, if he's in that lineup. So, like, even let's call it like 25, right? We're knocking this down pretty heavily because we've got everybody in the lineup owned over 20%. We've got the most popular captain, and we've got a Matt Vierling value play at 50% ownership. It spends all our salary. It's a nice little lineup if all those guys are in, but you're only going to be unique 1 in 2,000 times. So if you're entering a tournament with 50,000, 100,000 entries, it's going to be duped a few times. So that's DK. Take a quick look at a less interesting FanDuel build. FanDuel, you don't have to worry about the salary multiplier, so it makes it a little bit more straightforward. I'm going to do I did say I think the Padres side of this makes more sense. So let's load up a Padres one. We'll go with Brandon Drury MVP, only 5.8% owned in the MVP role. I think that's kind of interesting. You get some home run upside out of him, and then that allows you to play the correlation pieces ahead of him in the lineup in the star spot. So you could go, let's go, what are the salaries? Oh, Juan Soto is only 7,500 on FanDuel. What are we doing, people? All right. So $7,500 Juan Soto is in the lineup. We can just go right to Ha-Seong Kim. Let's just build the three of the hitters ahead of Drury into this lineup. Grab some correlated pieces there. 7,000 left to spend. We can have pretty much any. I mean, we could put Manny Machado in this lineup as well if we want to. We've got the money to spend. Right. We'll just take a look at what that's not what I would do here, I don't think. But let's just take a look at what that does. Leaves us 5,000 to spend. We do need a Philly. And I'm looking at the wrong side of the board here. So Bryson Stott back in our lives. He's in the lineup. He's an interesting little value play today. Let's say he's going to be 15% owned on FanDuel. A 1 in 44,000 if he's 15% owned. Let's say he's 25% owned. It's a 1 in 26,000. Still a nice little lineup. Spends all our salary. You get total correlation of the entire top of the Padres lineup with that. That ain't bad. If you get the Brandon Drury, I mean, it's greedy to say if you get a Brandon Drury grand slam in this spot with all three of those guys on base, we're really pushing our luck there. But I mean, if you get a nice game out of Brandon Drury, knocking in a couple of these guys a couple times, that's it. You're home. You might need something out of the Philly that you choose here, but that's a decent little lineup. I don't hate that at all. So we could easily get away with that. Let's see. We'll build one more FanDuel lineup just for the fun of it. I'm enjoying myself. Let's go with the Philly side. We'll take Kyle Schwarber. We'll pop Kyle Schwarber into the MVP spot. We'll grab some of that wraparound again with the cheap Brandon Marsh, a low-owned Brandon Marsh, only 4,500 over there. I'm putting him in the Utils spot because I don't necessarily believe that he's going to wrap around or be all that relevant from the bottom. So I don't want to necessarily occupy my star spot with him. Maybe I'll occupy my star spot with another with a Padres bat again. Go right back to Mr. Drury here. I just like that. Actually, no, you know what? I can't do that. I can't roster Brandon Drury there at 14% ownership, or excuse me, at what is the star? 8 versus 12. What I'm wrestling with here, gang, is Juan Soto and Brandon Drury being the same price on FanDuel. For a 4% ownership bump, I think I'd be stupid not to just take Juan Soto and put him there. What I would actually do is just build this both ways. I would have multiple versions of this lineup and build it out both ways. 7,200 to spend. Schwarber and Soto, just one-off individual best players in this game, possibly in the multiplier spots. And then let's take a look. We can go over here. Let's say, let's grab some Rhys Hoskins. We've got the money, 7,000 left. And we could go to Jake Cronenworth. A little bit of an odd duck of a lineup in that it doesn't necessarily string hitters together for hunting for correlation or anything like that. But again, if we're talking about a 15% on Brandon Marsh, this was only 9,500. because it's using more popular pieces. We're using a more popular captain play. We're using some pieces that are getting a little bit of attention. So a little bit more popular version, but I think a viable enough lineup. If it's duped 1 in 10,000-ish times, you're entering a 50,000 entry contest, 5 competitors, maybe somebody's just got it in a little bit of a different order, or maybe you just stumble across one, just because it's projected to have 5 dupes doesn't necessarily mean it's absolutely going to, right? So I think it's playable. Not my favorite lineup we've built on this show yet, though. So that's a little bit of a look, gang, at what we can do with today's lineups. That's a little bit of a look at the slate. I really appreciate everybody jumping in here, hanging out with me for a little bit, presuming that you did. This is a VOD, obviously, so I can't see your great comments. Hopefully everybody would be a lively chat and a lot of discussion and a lot of just, hey, man, you're so right about all this stuff. Hit the like, the subscribe, all those good things. Make sure to take advantage of the promo code Hardwood. We really appreciate everybody. That'll get you 10 days of Stokastic Plus Platinum for just $10, like we talked about. Good luck out there tonight. If you got questions, I'll be hanging around Discord all day. So hit me up. Always happy to chat. Have a good one, guys. See you later.